Okay guys, welcome back to Miller RC and welcome back to my messy, cluttered, whatever word you want to use to describe my workbench. But anyway, today we're going to be going over a tip I have for you guys, and that is general 3D RC plane maintenance. Now, it just makes sense to do this because with all the knife edge spins, you know, hard XA maneuvers we put these guys through, it's really good to make sure, you know, a lot of your fasteners, not a lot of them, all your fasteners are secure. You know, make sure nothing's loose, because it'll prevent a lot of crashes for you and make your plane generally last quite a bit longer. So this is the 60-inch laser here. I've probably flown about 10 or 15 times, and I'm going to go ahead and perform another maintenance check on her today. And I thought it'd probably be a pretty good video subject for you guys. So this obviously a balsa model here, but I think it really also applies, you know, foamies, you know, big guys, gas, whatever. Pretty much all airplanes you can do this, but just for the 3D planes, I really recommend you do it because, like I said before, we throw these things around pretty hard. So it's really good to, you know, make sure things are still tight. So how I start my process is I go from the front to the back, and I'll just go ahead and run through quick what I do. So I'll first take off the spinner, take off the prop, nut, washer, and then check the prop. I will check the prop for nicks or dings, bend it a little bit, just make sure it's in good shape, no major cracks, and make sure the prop's still in good shape. I'll take the cowling off, and I'll check how easy the screws are that back out. For this particular model, I have had to thin CA the cowling screw holes just to make them a little tighter a couple times, and it's good to do that. And it's kind of I've had to do it multiple times during these maintenance checks, so just for this particular model, that's what I have had to do. I'll then check my motor, make sure all my motor screws are nice and tight, the prop adapter screws are tight, the motor mount screws are tight, and then I won't do this every check, but I'll even bolt the motor off and check the screws that are holding the motor to the X mount. Now, most times the motor mount screws and the X mount screws, I have not had any issues throughout this entire plane's life and all my maintenance checks. Just make sure you lock tight your stuff and it's going to stay where you put it. So but I still do check them every now and then just to be sure. So I then check my motor wires, make sure they're not chafing, check my ESC, make sure all my connections are still all the way in, you know, make sure things haven't pulled out, make sure my ESC is nice and secure, make sure my foam protector here is still under there, obviously, because this is actually carbon fiber here. Don't know if carbon fiber electronics is probably not a good idea, but it does have a protector over it, so no problems there. Then once I get done with that, I will move on to the landing gear. Make sure my tires are still rotating freely. Being that these are lock nuts, most of the time these aren't loose, but I will still check them. And then these here, I've had to pretty much every maintenance check, retighten the wheel pant screws. And then I don't know if you can see this in here, but there's a set screw on that wheel collar there. And I make sure those are tight. I then check my landing gear bolts. Once again, these haven't come out on me. Once again, just make sure you Loctite these in place, metal to metal. Use Loctite. You go to the aileron servos next here, and you just check all your mounting fasteners, your servo arm mounting screw, your pinch bolt, your ball link hardware right here. Just make sure it's all tight. I then give a little tug on my control horn just to make sure it's still well epoxied in. I check my hinge gap here. My hinge gap seal, make sure it's still ironed in, and all that stuff. I also then check my side force generator bolts because I keep these on. I don't usually take them off. I just make sure, you know, they're not loose. I don't like to tighten these very much, but I just don't make sure they're super loose. So then moving back here, tail servos, pretty much the same operation as the aileron servos. Once again, check all these fasteners here, your hinge gap. I also like to move the control surface just to make sure I don't hear anything weird with the servo, or make sure there's no teeth chipped or broken or nothing, or whatever it is. So I just like to rotate the servo, make sure it still feels and sounds normal. The tail wheel here has been a pretty big one. I've had to retighten these two and the tiller arm screw back here a few times. I've also checked the set screws in the tail wheel here, and then I also checked the rudder hinge gap and all that, make sure that's still working, or not working, but it's still ironed on. Then same for the rudder servo. You know, servos, just check all your stuff, check all your fasteners. So, and yeah, that's pretty much for the bottom side here is all I can think of. As for internal, I just like to make sure my receiver antennas are still where they're supposed to be. They're nice and secure. My servo connectors into the receiver, make sure they're on all the way. Check my servo wires, make sure they're still in there. It's the same place that I put them. And then I check my wing bolts right here. I don't know if you can see those, but I make sure those are still tight because I don't take the wings off very often on this. In between maintenance times or checkups or whatever, and I just make sure those are still nice and tight. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole rundown on this maintenance for this particular model. Obviously yours is going to be different, but you can just get a general baseline of, you know, what I check and things you need to look for, and it will definitely prevent some mishaps down the road. I know I found some loose fasteners on some 3D planes before, and definitely would have when doing this, and definitely would have made it a lot harder to fly if the screws or the fastener backed out. So, and then I have because I didn't check, like I wasn't checking that, and then I had to wreck this thing and the servo came out, and if I would have checked that, you know, I would have prevented a crash on that. But anyway, that's the general hardware maintenance. Also, what this gives the opportunity to do, at least for a balsa wood model, is it gives you a good opportunity to tighten up covering or any wrinkles that you can see. You can heat up your iron. I pretty much, every time I'm doing maintenance, I plug in my iron and, you know, retighten the covering where I see it needs it. And then I also, as you can see, bottom there is pretty smudgy. It's really nice to take some microfiber cloths. I take one wet with clean water and then one dry, and I just wipe all the fingerprints off. And then for a nice shine, a waxy feel, I like putting on this Lucas Slick Mist. This stuff's really easy to find, Walmart. It's very inexpensive, and it gives a really nice wax coating on the model and makes it shine a little bit. Definitely something I recommend picking up if you really like to get your models looking really glossy and shiny. But yes, that is my general maintenance procedure for pretty much most of my 3D planes. It's definitely something I recommend. It'll definitely make your airplane last a lot longer. Oh, one more thing is every now and then, not every maintenance, but at least for a balsa model, once again, not a foam, but I'll take some thin CA and I'll go over the joints where I can reach again, like you were when you're first assembling it. I think it's a good idea to do it just to make sure there's no loose joints in the motor box here and all that. Just make sure stuff's still secure. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked it, go ahead and hit the like button. If I missed anything, go ahead and put it in the comments, and then make sure you guys like and subscribe. So thank you guys for watching MillRC, and tune in next time.